season 4 of You came out. Part 1 came out at least. And I finished it. You haven't started it yet. Kind of filling in the viewers a little bit about what that show is like and kind of what leads into season 4.
Yeah, I watched the first season and I thought it was a really cool concept. They kind of bring like the chick show and murder vibe, but they kind of make it interesting for the boyfriend to watch. I feel like is what the show is really good with because you have Joe, who's a really interesting character and has a really traumatizing childhood. And really, what the show shows is a lot of your trauma, a lot of your tendencies, and what happens. It goes back to repressed memories. I thought that's something the show does a really good job with, and just like the human characters and how his mind works where he wants to kill people to because he thinks that's what's best for that person because it's he killed his father when he was younger because he thought that was the best thing for his mother, and then he kind of has that complex when he has his other relationships. So season one it's new and unique, and then season two meet someone as crazy as himself where she goes ahead and kills.
Don't make too many spoilers.
Yeah, season 2, but you find out the girl he's dating is as crazy as him. In season 3, ends up settling down with her in the suburbs of California, and then
As a kid too.
yeah, you see him have a kid and then go through the serial killer kind of sociopathic character, kind of go through the process of living in the suburbs. And then the show, like, if there's ever a case why you shouldn't have a kid, it's season 3 of You. And then Homelander is awesome as one of the characters in season 3 from The Boys. And then you have this quirky mom blogger who's like a swinger in town. She's like kind of runs the town, so they always have beef with her. And then her bisexual husband is always hitting on Joe, and they go on a hunting trip. That was funny in the third season. So overall, I thought they did a good job of making season one. This is who he is. Season two, we're tying a storyline threaded through season three, and then I thought they did a good job wrapping it up. And I was interested because I don't know how much more you can do with Joe, and then enter in season four. What separates this from season one, two, and three? Do they do anything different, and do they do a good job differentiating it from the previous three seasons?
Yeah, because the first few seasons where the formula was Joe falls in love with this girl he barely knows, stalks her, has her fall in love with him, kills her friends, kills them. That's kind of the structure of the show. And then this time around, the structure is really there's like a woman that he's like kind of interested in, but really it's like he there's like this coworker of his. He's like because he's a teacher now. He's a teacher at this university in London, and there's like this professor buddy of his that he despises, and he invites him to like this party, and he didn't want to go, but then he ends up just like showing up to his house, and they end up going to this party, and then he gets really fucked up. He goes to this party with a bunch of rich people who he hates. Then he wakes up the next day, and this guy is dead on his counter. He's like, "Fuck," because he doesn't remember anything. So he got blackout drunk the night before, and then cleans up the body. He's like, "Shit, I killed this dude." And then he gets a text message from whoever it was like an anonymous number, and it was just like, "Thank you for cleaning up my mess." Talking about like, how do you know how to clean up a body like this? And it's basically like a message between him and this unknown sort of person fucking with him throughout the season. And I won't spoil it, but basically there's like a group of people. He's in love with this particular girl in the show, and all of her friends are like really awful influencer, like rich assholes, like inherited money, like daddy's money sort of people.
Yeah.
And the entire and it's only 5 episodes, and they're gonna have a part two next month, but it's basically just like him like trying to get as many clues, and it's more of like a mystery than it is like he's the killer. Not to say that he doesn't have his bodies, but it's like it's a lot of like him trying to solve who's the murderer, which I think is kind of funny because he's always like now he's trying to protect people to not be murdered, and then it's like there's just a way that it always comes back to him just being in the wrong place at the wrong time, just doing fuck shit. So I won't spoil too much of the show, but I can say that it's a refreshing take on you, and I think it's a show where it could probably maybe extend one more season if they decide to do it. But they're doing a part one and two, which is usually the sign of like, hey, we're not gonna continue this.
Yeah, and it's a good sign. And I feel like a lot of shows, I would rather them cut a season short, than go a season long, and then it kind of ruin the show's memory. But I like a tight, like 5 to 6 seasons for a show. Like The Boys, they're saying season 4 isn't going to be the last season. They're going to do about 6. So I feel like 6 is a solid number for a show.
Depends on the show too.
5 seasons of Breaking Bad felt like that was really good. Couldn't get too
Perfect.
much more out of that, but I feel like the character of Joe, I'm glad that it's unique where he's kind of getting messed with. I feel like that's a really interesting situation. I feel like they just do a good job of putting him in uncomfortable situations, and this show has a really good dialect. I feel like with what goes around comes around, and you see him make mistakes in his life, and then contemplate things he's done as in his past and how that has led to where he is today and how it's affected him. And then certain situations come to life where it's like, okay, now I'm not the serial killer and someone's messing with me. And they're either probably trying to frame him for their crimes. Is there any of that going on?
Maybe.
Maybe. Yeah, where they're trying to frame him for that. Like, hey, this guy was a serial killer in America and then he escaped to, is he in England?
He is in England now.
Yeah, how's the setting of the show? Because I like the vibe with him in New York and then to LA, and then you have a very distinct vibe of the suburbs. How is the overall vibe of how they capture the atmosphere of you? Because I feel like that's always been a strong point for me.
Yeah, I really think that being in London, I think it kind of adds like a foreign uh angle to it. So it's kind of like you get to see different parts of the world in it, and I like it. I like the theme a lot. He's still obsessed with his fucking books. If there's one thing I really get annoyed with him is like every fucking season he's somehow connected to books, and of course he's a fucking English teacher in this, which
Oh
is
God.
yeah, and he's always in the library. My God. But yeah, it's refreshing. The murderer that's kind of fucking with him does kind of pin him and is kind of like using blackmail against him, and it's kind of interesting. You don't really get to even when they confirm who it is, it's like surprising because they do like a lot of red herrings in the show. So it's kind of like, oh, is it this person? Is it that person? And then when it all gets revealed, it's pretty great. I'm excited for the part two.